Have you ever met someone who just radiated something special? Someone whose presence alone seemed to light up the room and bring a sense of calm and joy. They weren't loud or boastful, but there was a kindness, a peace about them that drew you in. It was as if their very essence was a beacon of hope and love. That's the kind of witness Peter talks about in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 12. A witness that doesn't rely on grand gestures or loud proclamations, but on the quiet strength of a life well lived. He's not talking about shouting from rooftops or arguing people into heaven. Instead, he's talking about the power of a gentle spirit and a loving heart. He's talking about living lives so beautiful, so full of grace, that people can't help but notice. Lives that reflect the love and compassion of Jesus in every action, every word. In today's world, Christianity often gets a bad rap. We see headlines filled with stories of division and conflict, and it's easy to become disheartened. We hear stories of hypocrisy, judgment, and even hate being spread in the name of faith. These stories can overshadow the true message of love and redemption. It breaks my heart because that is not the heart of Jesus. His message was one of unconditional love and acceptance. He came to love, to heal, to offer hope. He reached out to the marginalized, the broken, and the lost, offering them a place of refuge and belonging. And when we, his followers, embrace that same spirit, we become living, breathing invitations to a world hungry for his touch. We become the hands and feet of Jesus, bringing his love to those around us. Imagine a life where your actions speak louder than any sermon, where your daily interactions become a testament to the transformative power of God's love, where your kindness becomes a refuge in a storm of anger and division, a beacon of hope in a world that often feels dark and divided, where your unwavering love, even in the face of disagreement, plants seeds of curiosity in the hearts of those who have only known judgment. A love that transcends differences and builds bridges. That's the kind of life that draws people in, that makes them wonder, what is it about them? What makes them so different? What is the source of their joy and peace? What makes them so different? It's the love of Jesus shining through, a love that changes everything. We all fall short. It's a universal truth that transcends cultures, beliefs, and backgrounds. Every single one of us, without exception. And yet, it's so easy to point fingers, to judge others for their mistakes while overlooking our own. We often forget that we are all flawed, all human. But judgment, my friend, is a wall. It's a wall that we build brick by brick, each judgment adding another layer. It's a barrier that separates us from each other and from God's love. It creates distance where there should be closeness. It says, I'm better than you, when the truth is, we're all in this together. We are all part of the same human family, facing similar struggles. We're all on a journey, stumbling and learning as we go. Each step, each misstep is part of our growth. I've heard people say Christians are judgmental. It's a stereotype that has unfortunately some basis in reality. And sadly, sometimes it's true. We forget our calling, our mission to love unconditionally. We forget that we're called to love, not to condemn, to embrace, not to exclude. We forget that everyone has a story, a reason behind their choices, even if we don't understand it. Each person is a complex tapestry of experiences and emotions, and when we lead with judgment instead of love, we push people away instead of drawing them closer. Think about it. Reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever been drawn to someone who looked down on you, who made you feel small or unworthy? Or did it push you away, make you feel isolated? Or have you been more likely to open your heart to someone who offered compassion, who listened without judgment, who made you feel seen and valued? It's in those moments of genuine connection that we find true understanding and love. In Galatians, Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit, a profound concept that goes beyond mere words. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are not just virtues to aspire to, but tangible evidence of a life transformed by the Spirit. These aren't just words on a page, my friend. They are the outward expressions of an inward transformation, a visible sign of an invisible grace. They are the evidence of God's work in our lives, shaping us to be more like Him, molding our character to reflect His love and compassion. When we surrender our hearts to Christ, something incredible happens. We begin to see the world through His eyes. His love begins to flow through us, changing us from the inside out, making us vessels of His grace and mercy. We become less concerned with ourselves and more concerned with others, finding joy in serving and helping those in need. We find joy in unexpected places, peace in the midst of storms, and a sense of purpose that transcends our circumstances. We develop a patience we never knew we had, a kindness that extends even to those who are hard to love, and a goodness that shines in our actions. These fruits aren't something we can muster up on our own. They are the result of a life surrendered to the Spirit. They are gifts from the Holy Spirit, freely given to those who ask, and cultivated through a relationship with God. And as we allow Him to work in us, to prune away our selfishness and pride, these fruits begin to blossom in our lives, making us more and more like the one we follow, reflecting His glory in all we do. One of the hardest things for us to grasp is that loving someone doesn't mean condoning their sin. It means caring about their soul enough to speak the truth, but doing it with grace and humility. It means remembering that we are all sinners saved by grace, and none of us has the right to condemn another. When Jesus encountered the woman caught in adultery, He didn't condone her sin, but He also didn't condemn her. He offered her mercy and a chance to start anew. "Go and sin no more," He said. And in those words, we see the heart of God, a heart that hates sin but loves the sinner. Think about how you would want to be treated if you were in their shoes. Would you want to be met with anger and judgment? Or would you want someone to offer you a hand up, a listening ear, a heart full of compassion? As believers, we are called to be ambassadors for Christ. We are His representatives in a world that desperately needs Him. And, the way we live our lives, the way we treat others, speaks volumes about the God we serve. Imagine someone who has never met Jesus, never experienced His love. What if your life was their only glimpse of who He is? Would they see His compassion reflected in your eyes? Would they feel His love in your touch? Would they hear His truth spoken with grace from your lips? Our lives should be like mirrors, reflecting the beauty and light of Christ to a world shrouded in darkness. When we love unconditionally, forgive freely, and serve others with joy, we become living, breathing examples of His transformative power. We show the world that Christianity is not about rules and regulations, but about a relationship, a vibrant, life-changing relationship with the God who created us and loves us beyond measure. Sometimes the most powerful witness isn't about grand gestures or eloquent words. It's about the small, everyday acts of kindness and love that speak louder than any sermon. It's about being a true friend, a dependable neighbor, a compassionate stranger who brightens someone's day with a smile or a helping hand. I think about the stories I've heard of people who were drawn to Christ simply by observing the way Christians lived their lives. Maybe it was a co-worker who consistently showed patience and understanding, or a neighbor who went out of their way to help those in need. These acts of love, though seemingly small, planted seeds of curiosity that eventually blossomed into faith. Our lives are like tapestries, woven with threads of compassion, forgiveness, and grace. And as we allow God to work in us to transform us from the inside out, these threads become more and more vibrant, creating a masterpiece that draws others to the artist. So how do we cultivate these fruits of the Spirit? How do we become the kind of people who radiate God's love and draw others to Him? It starts with a heart surrendered to Christ, a willingness to let go of our own selfish desires and embrace His plan for our lives. Spend time in prayer, asking God to reveal areas in your life that need His touch. Dive into His Word, allowing its truths to shape your thoughts and actions. Surround yourself with other believers who can encourage you on your journey. Remember, my friend, this is a lifelong journey, not a destination. There will be times when you stumble, when you fall short. But God's grace is always sufficient, His love always available to lift you up and set you back on the right path. In a world that often feels dark and hopeless, we have the privilege and responsibility to be bearers of light. We are called to shine brightly, not with our own strength, but with the radiant love of Christ that flows through us. Imagine a world where judgment gives way to compassion, where anger is disarmed by kindness, where division is healed by love. This is the world we are invited to create, one interaction, one act of love at a time. Let's be the kind of people who reflect God's love in everything we do, who draw others to Him not by our words, but by the undeniable beauty of our lives. Let's be known for our love, our compassion, our willingness to extend grace, even when it's hard. In the end, my friend, it all boils down to love. Love is the greatest commandment, the most powerful force in the universe. It's what drew us to Christ, and it's what will draw others to Him as well. So let your life be an invitation, an open door to the transformative love of Jesus. Let your actions speak louder than your words, and let your love be a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Remember, you are loved beyond measure, and you have the power to make a difference in the world. Go out and share that love with everyone you meet. For in giving, you will receive, and in loving, you will be loved.